Alrighty, this is my first attempt. Let's see how difficult this guy is. I need to do physical with dark and magical with dark. Interesting. Ooh, the music on this one. I like it. Okay. This one. Ooh, I don't know if I have any that do physical damage. This should be interesting. What is the damage reduction? Oh, it just increases his HP by 100%. Alrighty. That was easy. Oh, he removes my field. Interesting. Well, it's a good thing I have Joker. So I'm going to use Joker into the orc monster to maintain the bubble, probably. That's probably the best thing to do. And then I'll probably push for damage at that point. I should be all ready to go. So this should be... Well, I might actually miss out on the 180 buff from Fern. It might be expiring soon. Yeah, I mean, look at that damage, though. That's pretty good. Forbidden Temptation, the triple proc. Boom! Oh my gosh, that did a lot of damage. This is annoying, but should be fine, because I should apply a negative field to him. Reapply 180 buff. I should have used Forbidden Temptation before I jumped. Because as I jumped, I didn't realize that I instantly got uni because of... Oh my gosh. I didn't realize that I had gotten instantly got uni because of Serenity's expiration. That was incredible timing. Okay, so it looks like each of these medals trades for different things. So that's interesting. That was my first attempt at Idyra. Ooh, I got one of the drops too. So you can get a drop. You can get a drop, and you can also trade for them. So I got the dual blades. And I talked about the... let's just filter. Oh, okay. Filter by metals, and then one at the bottom. So I talked about the star ones at one point when they first came out, but I figured I'd go over the swords or these light ones because I had never gone over them. So it increases damage when using a physical and magic attack ability powered by XXS. So extra small. That is pretty small. But my guess is this is actually a percent because it looks like it's a percent. So that's nice. It applies a Sun God's Incarnation. One enemy and one adjacent amplifies Unison gauge reduction effects by 50% for 30 seconds, but it requires 20 uni. It's kind of interesting. If you're really that concerned about uni, you should really just you should really just set up 100% uni resistance. I suppose if they turn off your constants, then that you can't with stuff like nebulous field or abstraction. But I think you're basically dead if that's the case anyway. So that's kind of a weird one. Not very useful in anything other than what? Yeah, it would be really niche for something like PvE, but for PvP and guild battles, it's garbage. All right, let's look at this one. Applies chipped blade, which nullifies penetration of damage reduction and damage reflection when using an ability for 10 seconds, but it uses 20 uni. So this is actually really interesting. In something like PvP, if it was a 2v2 or a 1v1, this might actually be incredibly good because you can hit the entire enemy team. If it was like a 1v1 or a 2v2 or a 3v3 and you weren't playing something like Lancer, or even if you were playing a Lancer, then you could still use this. That is actually really, really beneficial for PvP. Now, when it comes to PvE, this is basically useless. And when it comes to guild battles, this is super niche. Generally in guild battles, you want to kill the enemies in round one. Like, I can't imagine using this after the beginning of round one. So this is locked in for round one. Now, where you may end up seeing this is maybe on a cleric. If you had cleric, like a cleric frontline, and the cleric wasn't necessarily doing a whole lot of damage, or not damage, but wasn't necessarily racing. Sorry. So if you have a cleric on the front line and the cleric isn't a racing cleric, the cleric is just there to cleanse things like Chip Blade, it might actually be beneficial for the cleric to have this book. But keep in mind, any class should be able to use this because it doesn't have a class restriction on it. So it just so happens that it's a book. But I think it might be beneficial for clerics. You could also say the same thing about things like if you had a rook or treasure hunter. I don't like it on a treasure hunter. Usually treasure hunters want to race. Lots of other classes want to race. So it's kind of interesting. I think that you would have a Lancer. So I could envision a time where this could be like a really, really amazing 10 out of 10 ability. If you had Lancers in the front line with a cleric or some other character that wasn't necessarily going to get uni, but was going to get 20 uni at some point, and would be able to apply Chipped Blade against specific teams and didn't need their weapon ability. So yeah, I mean, I think this is actually pretty good. Same thing on this one. Let's see. Hits 3 enemies. Again, reduces cost by 3 every 10 seconds. That is fascinating. It's definitely useless in PvE. In PvP also seems useless because you start with so much cost. You start with 50 cost in PvE. In PvP. Stuff like Colosseum. So that seems like a dud. But for guild battles, this might be interesting. The reason why I say that is because if there's ever a day where racing is extremely viable again, where treasure hunters are constantly trying to race, those types of builds with the treasure hunter builds, they rely heavily on uni procs. So stuff that gives you uni, but you need cost in order to continue to use abilities. So you have to have procs that proc cost and proc uni combined. And generally speaking, those do not give you a lot of cost or a lot of uni because they're kind of an in-between. So this could be really useful against them, but only in the situation where they don't have 100% cost reduction as part of their constants. You know what I mean? So it's kind of niche, but you're just hoping that the treasure hunter is going all in on uni reduction and not cost reduction. Using 20 uni for this again It's super niche. And oftentimes the treasure hunters are separated. The reason why you separate the treasure hunters is so that they both can't get taunted. But and like hit with certain debuffs. For example, this is a good debuff that applies, but there are many debuffs that are AoE debuffs. So generally, you separate your treasure hunters. You put one in the one position, and you put the other in the 5 position, so they're very far from each other. So this at best could hit one treasure hunter, and I don't like the 10 seconds. Maybe if it was 5 seconds, it would be good, but I'm gonna rate this like a 4 out of 10 right now. I don't think it's any good in PvP, and it's in guild battles. It's basically useless in PvP and PvE. Alrighty, let's go over my build. So I had against light, I was split for 11 mil, or I guess 12 mil and 8 mil. I had Dragon Slayer procs. I had some of these Dark Frenzy procs, another Dragon Slayer proc, another Dark Frenzy proc. I had some fillers, Zero Combats. I had an Obliteration. I had Mastery in the main slot with 2 openings. Mastery in the main slot again. And I had the Undying Aggression for the Resurrection. Again, the second Duty to Defend. And then in my backline monsters, I had a bunch of Dark Element or Star Element monsters. And I was mainly using Seiya for the field, but also to clear the ordeal, which was necessary for this one. Queen was not really here for any reason other than the Nebulous Eclipse, but again, you could replace this with a lot of monsters. Kazumi was fantastic because she is one of the best elemental buffers in the game. Fern, again, using for the 200% buff, or the 180 buff, plus Absolute. Serenity, and Unison gauge gains, which are in the Awakening, which is fantastic. And then Joker, Unison gauge gains, but Absolute and the Dark Crest. Basically everything that you'd want in this, because the monster does remove your field. That was kind of annoying. Yeah, that is everything for that monster, and I will catch you guys in the next one.